Hey everyone, it's me, Catherine Endy, the Family Life Coach. And today we are talking about play. And specifically, we're going to talk about why play is so important and how you can use it to create more connection in your family. Because as you know, I am all about helping parents feel calmer, more confident, and more connected to their kids so they can actually enjoy parenting. So, we're going to start by talking about the fact that play is the language of childhood. It's the language of children, really. It's how children learn. They learn by doing, by exploring, by getting creative, and by figuring stuff out by doing. So, allowing children a lot of time to explore and play is how they learn. It's how they get acquainted with the world and how they figure out not only how stuff works sort of technically, but also how the world works emotionally and socially. Play also releases stress. So if you've allowed your child some time for a pillow fight or some rough and tumble play or throwing a ball really hard against a wall or tossing a ball back and forth, these kinds of things are great ways to release negative emotion, which is so important. And we talked about it last time about different ways to release negative emotion. It's so important for children to feel stable and balanced and good inside their bodies, and also for them to act in ways that we want them to act, right? If children are feeling emotionally unsettled or icky or filled with a lot of negative emotion, they're more likely to act in ways that we don't prefer. So it's good for us and it's good for them. It's good for kids to have an opportunity to release negative emotion so that they feel good. And one way to do that is to set up a pillow fight or allow opportunities for them to pummel some stuffed animals and to do it in a really playful way that feels good and feels connected and safe. Play also creates connections. So once kids have an opportunity to release that negative emotion, they are also able to get into a place of resonance. And what I mean by that is when you, for example, are tossing a ball back and forth, you're in rhythm. And so you're in a back and forth rhythm and resonance with your child. And there's lots of cool science on what happens when two people or two organisms get into resonance and into rhythm together. But one way that you can do this with your child is to toss a ball back and forth or to get into some kind of physical movement. So play doesn't have to just be creative expression or pretend play. It can also be something really active where you're giving yourself and your child the opportunity to be in resonance. And one thing that I found when I used to be a school counselor is, especially with some of the older kids who were a little reluctant to talk directly about things that were going on in their lives, if we took a ball outside and just started tossing it back and forth, for a while we would just toss the ball back and forth and not really talk much. And over time, after we've been playing ball for a little while, they would start to open up because they would start to feel in emotional resonance with me and feel connected and feel safe. And so that opening up that ability to create some rhythm and some resonance was a really powerful way to get kids to talk. So if your kid is a little bit on the older side and is able to talk about their experience, but maybe not really willing to open up if you question them directly, then using a game or a ball, playing a board game even is a great way to do this, where you're doing an activity together, you're engaged in similar activity, and they will feel safe and connected and more likely to open up. Another way that you can use play to help kids express themselves is, of course, through imaginative play. So whether that's dollhouse or using a couple of stuffed animals as characters or pretend play where you're sort of role playing, whatever it is that they enjoy is a really great way for kids to talk about things that might be on their mind without having to speak directly to them or question them or, drill them with questions about what's going on. But if you kind of set up a situation in which they can play out what's going on, play out something that is on their mind, something that's worrying them, something that's been bothering them, you might get a lot of interesting information about what's going on inside that little head of theirs. I had a client recently whose child had been through a lot of medical stuff, and as a way to help her through that, they set up a little play hospital and an ambulance and, a doctor's office and all of these things, so that as often as she needed to, she could go to that space and play out some of the things that were on her mind. And even though some of the things that came up were maybe potentially upsetting or a little concerning to the parents, it was an opportunity for the kid to just get out the stuff that was on her mind and the worries that she was having about people in her life who had to be hospitalized, or concerns she had about her own experience being in the hospital. So that is really a lot of the foundation of play therapy, which is a work that I used to do when I was in clinical practice with young children. So it's a beautiful way. You don't have to necessarily be a trained play therapist to do this at home with your kids, but just setting up situations where they can play out and work out some of the things that might be on their mind. So these are just a few suggestions for how you can use play to create more connection with your child. If you've tried some of these, please let me know in the comments how that went for you. And my challenge to you this week is to use some play to create more connection with your children. I would love to hear how it goes. Talk to you soon.